Welcome to PPR Podcast number 259. Old Burt, would you like to introduce our special guest?
Such a special guest today, Brandon Stone. How are you, sir?
Three-time Sportscaster of the Year as selected by the Union Tribune poll.
Should have been 10 at least. 3's not enough for his brilliance.
He has more than I do.
I can see that.
Well, the first thing I was going to say was the only reason I have 3 is because the guy who preceded me probably has 16 of them.
No.
But he says, you think you have less? I don't believe that. Well. Jim Lazovic couldn't have won that many.
Where are we at? Have you seen Lazovic?
I have not, no.
Well, anyhow, we're here to talk about the Prep Pigskin Report in greater detail as it relates to the nominations. Lots of, we had to obviously get some feedback, get some negative feedback, but I have to say, other than a couple examples, I can think of 2, it's been a really quiet year as far as our selections. Does that mean we got everything right but 2 picks, Brandon?
I would love to say yes, it means we got everything right. The toughest thing is that everybody's looking for one sort of grading metric when we do a lot of these things. And ultimately, there never is one perfect matrix. There never is for any award. You can think of NFL MVPs, you can think of a Heisman Trophy, you can think of all of them. And there's never one true matrix. I know the number one thing people like to talk about is stats. Stats tell all kinds of different stories because they can lie to you, they can deceive you. We don't know who's are fully accurate, but what we do have, the number one thing on this show is, and you guys know it, is we have our eyes. We have our eyes, our brains, and our hearts. Our eyes show us how people performed on the field. Our brains tell us what we've seen before and what we think we'll see in the future, and our hearts tell us what's right and virtuous. And as long as we have those 3 things in lock, it makes me have faith in all of our selections, even if there are a couple of mistakes along the way.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and here's where it gets, at least in the NFL, they're all playing against one another, Bert. Mm-hmm. Whereas here, it's more like college in that you have some guys that are playing against really tough competition, other guys putting up monster numbers against lesser competition. And who gets your nod? The good player at the highest level or the great player at a level down one?
And yeah, and another point is, I think I brought this up before, you and I have a little advantage because we get to see everybody. So Allison only gets to see East County. Brandon only gets to see City. Nick only gets to see North. Chase only South. We get to see everybody though. So I think we have a little.
I can see many people.
Live and in person though on the sideline.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll tell you what, Brandon, I felt like I was a much better person in the nomination room today, having now being the guy who's at the game for 3 quarters and in some cases calling the games on the stream game. I feel like I was, especially when it came to like the Iron Hog selections and stuff like that, you get to watch people and you can focus in on them, and it's not just huddle tape. You heard them, you see them, you see how big they are or how fast they are.
Yeah, and especially with the Iron Hog, I think, like you brought up, we got to see some dominant performances. I didn't know how good Bronx was till I watched them twice this year, because you watch highlights, you see a couple plays, it's usually honor. You don't get to see Bronx or anybody else, or Chase, or any of the linemen they
Bronx,
have.
Latuli Gassanoa.
Thank you for doing that for me. Thank you.
Latuli Gassanoa, who plays for Cathedral Catholic and is still playing. So, I don't know, Brandon, where would you like to pick up the conversation? Before we get to the playoff games themselves, do you just want to, first of all, why don't you go over the voting process, who's got to vote, and when their deadline is to return that vote? Why don't we deal with that right now?
I think that's a great way to start things, Paul. Every year we get together and take a look at who should have a voice and have a say, and who gets to decide a lot of our gala awards. First, there's just the nomination period. That's the PPR Select Committee. So that's all the main talent and faces you see on our program. It's the 3 of us, Nick James, Bo Furtick, Allison Edmonds, Chase Isidoro, Bree Savant, and all the rest of the group. We obviously have our great coaches that are involved in the program. Burt would be one of those people. Coach James is one of those people. John Carroll is one of those people. And then there's also people that we talk to about life, which is a lot of the great coaches out there, a lot of the players themselves. We'll ask players, what do they think about each other? We'll certainly see certain scouts and influencers. That's the best way I can call them. And we get a chance to talk to all of them. And starting in, honestly, week 4 or 5, we begin to build a list. And that list builds and changes and modifies over about a 4 to 6 week period. And then by week 11, we're pretty locked in with who we think should be awarded for what. And that leads us to the fan vote, that leads us to the other awards. And then when it comes time for voting, we let every head coach in the county gets a ballot. By the way, if you're a head coach that hasn't received a ballot and you're watching this, just let one of the three of us know and we'll take care of that. Every person who works on this show, which is about 85
to 100,
gets a vote as well. This year, the flag coaches now have a voice, and there might be some who are saying, how could you let flag coaches get a vote in a 11-on-11 situation? I'd only add that the vast majority of those flag football coaches are also people who coach 11-on-11
Yep.
or played or were involved in it, and we're always trying to find a way to not just open our eyes to that, but also being very aware that the flag football community is a part of the football community. And then we also have influencers who get a chance to vote as well. We have various media members, those who work in television, radio, work in newspaper and web, they get a chance to vote as well. Ballots are sent to them, as well as every single former Silver Pigskin winner also gets to vote. And they do vote. In fact, Paul, I get the joy of telling you that I did confirm that once again, Patrick Conan, the first ever Silver Pigskin winner, did in fact put in his vote.
And that always warms my heart that we have guys that now have kids playing on the show, still contributing. And all told, what about, we think about 300 ballots go out?
Yeah, right around there is
And we'll get about 200 back?
Yeah, right now, I believe as of my last look, there are 123 back, and we're in the midst of contacting a lot of the people who have not voted yet, because sometimes those get lost in the mail. And so
And the deadline to vote is?
Thursday.
This Thursday.
Yes,
I voted yesterday.
he sure did.
What do you think? What do you think? I'm sorry, Paul. What do you think? What was the hardest category for you to pick?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
I think the hardest categories are always the wedge categories. Picking an offensive and a defensive is very straightforward, but then there are different wedge categories, I call them, like underclassmen
Yes.
and two-way. To me, those are the hardest because there's so much definition of them, very open about what they can be. And two-way talks about how many different layers there are to a person. Underclassmen, you're fighting against three different grade levels with different positions and different skills, so those aren't necessarily the easiest thing in the world. One that I've thought more about in recent years is Coach of the Year, because a lot of times we make this natural assumption that being Coach of the Year means your team was bad and then it gets good. But sometimes the thing that's harder than that is taking a good team and keeping it good, when so many things can influence that team. And what is truly a great coaching performance? Is a great coaching performance taking a really good team and keeping it good, or taking a really bad team and lifting it up? Coach James once said to me, the hardest years he had as a coach were the years where he took a team that was only worth 3 wins and got them to 6, versus taking a team that was capable of 9 wins and making sure they won 9. It's interesting when you really look at it deeper, what it means to be a coach and what are you conquering. I mean, a couple of years ago, the Lincoln staff, they didn't win Coach of the Year, but at the same time, they didn't have a single home game and they're practicing at an elementary school.
To me, that was one of the greatest coaching stints ever.
Yeah. So,
They won a state.
but no one wants to vote for that because they say they want a
Because
state
they're
championship.
loaded, yeah.
What did they overcome? So it's all, everyone's definition of what qualifies as a vote is so different that I don't want to disrespect anybody's opinion, which is why we get a big wide net. We cast a wide net so that way we know we're getting back the right result.
And folks, just to build on what Brandon was saying, picking categories, take an athlete like Honor Falalave Johnson. He could be up for Silver Pigskin, which he is. He could be up for Offensive Player of the Year. He could be up for Defensive Player of the Year. He could be up for Two-Way Player of the Year. He could be up for Underclassman of the Year. And would be, I think, a leading candidate, or at least in the top 2 in each one of those categories to win it. He could be the Titanic of our Academy Awards, or whatever movie won a lot of them. He could actually go home.
Rocky.
So, that's overkill in our view. We want to get as many people a chance
And
to
what
shine.
I would add to that, Paul, is that you're saying about that one particular person. I look at this list for Underclassmen of the Year, and I feel that way about several of them and other things that they could be in too. It's difficult to place everybody.
Gage Weddle could easily be. He could replicate everything I just said about Honor Falalave Johnson.
Certainly
I
could.
too.
Pie could.
Pie could do that. That's Pie Palmolo, by the way. Pie could do it. Kai Cooper could do it.
Pumele,
Xavier
what are you
St. John.
talking
Pie Pomeli, you mean?
Xavier St. John doesn't get enough attention as a great, true cover shutdown corner at Mission Hills too. There's so many great players in our county. I think one of the more difficult things we're going through in the last few years, especially I would call them the post-COVID years of this show, is that our talent is at the level of the Southern section now. There's no question about it. We're about to go through 3 straight years of having the #1 recruit at something in the country in our area. And that makes it subjectively harder for us to do our jobs because we want to make sure we're covering everybody. We don't want to make sure we get lost in recruiting hype. We want to cover the homegrown quality talent that works hard in and out every single day. And we also have a lot of space to put people in awards. And anytime you allow 1 slot for an award, there are 5 people who think they should have it. So if we have 15 awards now. If you have 15 awards with 5 to 6 slots, that means you do the math. There's 500 people that believe they have a spot. But we get paid for the hard stuff, so it's okay.
So let's get to the crux of the issue because, and Brandon, you and I can go back and forth on this, and Burt, obviously you can contribute, because when the show started and we created the Silver Pigskin Podium, when that came to be a thing, our thought was, when we went to multiple awards, we said, okay, if you're on the podium, that's where the buck stops. Because you're treated with such, because you're a VIP guest, you get the limo ride, you get the fat head, you get the electronics, you get a lot being a Silver Pigskin finalist, whether you win or lose. That is enough. But then in the most recent years, we got away from that feeling, and Brandon, I'll let you explain the other side of that coin and then why it's an issue. So I'd say, I'm of the ilk that if you're on the podium, then even though you would be eligible for other awards, that's where your night stops. You say, Brandon?
Hold on, can I add to one thing?
Yes, I was going to say I wanted to hear Burt's opinion first.
I don't think, it's almost like making the argument that we always make that if you're in the open, the 3 best teams aren't going to make the playoffs for the state, and it's something that nobody wants to talk about, but it's the same thing if you're just Silver Pigskin finalists, there's going to be 4 of the best players in the county that aren't going to win anything at some point.
Burt, I'm glad you said that because I was actually having that conversation with Paul last week where I said we currently have a playoff system. And by the way, what I'm going to say, I'm not trying to slant the playoff system. It's really difficult. You can't make one policy that lives for all. But in our current playoff system, we willingly sacrifice 3/4 of the teams that we consider to be best in front of a state audience. Part of me wondered if the state board should make their selections before the section playoffs so that the section champion can be the section champion and the state champion can be the state champion. And if you look at it compared to what happened in the southern section this week, where St. John Bosco loses and suddenly, and then I can't remember which the other team that lost also this last weekend was, where suddenly the southern section is going to have a group of champions that they weren't anticipating versus what strength they could actually show on the state level. Now, going back to what Paul's presenting, I compare it to the Grammys. If Kendrick Lamar is up for Album of the Year, how could he conceivably not be up for Rap Album of the Year? To me, there's no balance.
You want to tell Paul who Kendrick Lamar is?
I forgot.
Did he play for the
Paul,
Lakers?
when you go into, Wikipedia, it's K-E-N.
Paul's over like, who?
Hold on, let me rewind this. If The Who was up for Best Album of the Year, but they weren't up for Rock Album of the Year, you'd say, how could they not have the best rock album of the year? What's unfortunate about that, though, is it always leaves 2 or 3 people out who should absolutely be in. And I hate that. It hurts my soul, and I think a lot of people don't understand how much decisions like that
crush us.
They hurt us so much, especially.
We had to leave a very popular quarterback in the North County out in the cold because we had to put a finalist into a category. And
well, I don't want to say it like that either, Paul. Not to rebut you, but I don't want to discredit one person because of where we have to put them. The people we put in the categories, we believe in them wholeheartedly. So I just want to make sure that's clear. The problem, though, is that
we ran out of chairs.
We just ran out of chairs at the end of the day. But also, I never want it to feel like, oh, we're on this podcast, we're crying, woe is us. Can't you just understand us, leave us alone, we're flowers. We've earned the right to get punched in the face, and that's okay. I never want to come on here and make it seem like, oh, you have to understand us and then bleed. if you're angry about it, you have the right to be angry. I respect your right to be angry.
Well, yeah.
The number one thing I want you to respect, though, is we didn't just throw it out in the cold. We spent time, we talked about it, we felt that pain, and we're sorry for those that do feel that pain.
And then some weird things happened that we had a plan on Thursday, and then some things happened as far as fan votes and whatnot that changed the equation, and that's just the nature of the show. I would say this. When I get, probably more so than anybody sitting out here, I get a lot of angry texts.
I get none.
I know, because you are the biggest coward on the planet.
Exactly.
You really are, dude.
I know.
You pretend like you have nothing to do.
I don't.
Anyhow, I get, and my, I'm a blue collar Italian, so I kind of get like this, and then all of a sudden, my other half pulls me. Paul, the fact that people care the much as they do speaks to the quality of the show and its impact in the community. And then I kind of, I think she's right. The fact that people care. And then the other thing I love
Anger is an honor.
Is that the coaches advocating for their own kids. I think I would be more upset if coaches weren't upset.
Yeah.
That they didn't just accept it willy-nilly and that they make their cases. I'm still going to push next year, though, to go back to my way of doing it, but I don't know if I'll be successful in that.
Can I ask you a question? A
Yeah.
little off topic. A couple weeks ago, there was so much about this max preps and the playoff brackets and everything else, and now after 2 weeks, there's a lot of parity and a lot of good games. Is it really that bad a system, or did we get it wrong? Not max preps.
I mean, their 1 through 10 looked a little bit more accurate than ours. Did it not?
I don't think we look inaccurate. We've had San Marcos in our top 9 for most of the year, and here they are in the D1 semi. Mount Miguel has floated in our top 9, and here they are in a D1 semi. Granite Hills has always maintained with up and downs there in a D1 semi.
I didn't mean our poll.
I would say our poll, we had the right teams, maybe just not in the max prep order.
Yeah, I think in our last ranking, and I have to go back and check, I believe we had Carlsbad as the 5th out of the 4. And now they're in the Open Championship. I think that speaks to how level those 5 teams were. And I'll tell you, this is the guy who was at Lincoln this past Friday. Poway gave Lincoln everything it could, and Poway was a team that was moving from D2 into the D1 scope, but had a tough draw because of the teams they had to play in the avocado schedule. So I think San Marcos has gone through the same thing. So I think San Marcos will give Lincoln just the same exact fight that Poway did, in a bit of a different way because Poway's a bit more of a bruiser. At San Marcos,
A little more finesse.
They're gonna do a little more finesse. They're gonna trick it up in a different way, but they're still gonna give them a fight too. So I feel like everybody got to the same conclusion. They just took a different path.
Can I follow up on your game? Because a lot of folks were critical of Junior Curtis being on Offensive Player of the Year because he didn't have the gaudy numbers of some other running backs in the county. And I think Junior Curtis answered all those questions with his performance against Poway. Would you like to elaborate as an eyewitness?
I'll say this about Lincoln's strategy. Lincoln's strategy was definitely, we want to prove a point in this game about how good we are and what we can put up. And so sometimes actually I think they got out a little bit ahead of their skis, to be quite frank with you, with some of their strategy, the no huddle. But when they were locked in the second half, they became unstoppable on offense. And that was because of not just the 307 rushing yards that Junior Curtis put down in that game. You don't get to hear the special teams yardage, including about a 70-yard return that had to get kicked back. I think if you took away that, plus the special teams yardage, a couple other things, I think he was almost near 500 in total.
And he has a great running back that he splits time with in our Newcomer of the Year finalists.
Rashad had a run where he went all the way to the right, chopped his feet, cut all the way to the left, got inside the 5, and all got taken away because of a block in the back. That's an incredible duo right there, and giving them the ball is the smartest thing you can do. But the best play in that game, Paul, was Courtney Miller Thompson had this incredible catch. 4 people were trying to grab the ball, bounced up, bounced into his hands as he's running forward, bops it 4 times, grabs it, and then runs it in for a touchdown. Incredible team there, too.
Yeah, and I would just say this, that if either Junior or Rashad were a solo back in that system, they would have as gaudy numbers as anybody that's on the podium or up for any award. that isn't named.
And Junior had to share last year. It was the same thing with
Yeah,
Aiden.
that goes back to what Brandon's saying, or what you were saying about we're there. We get to see him. We saw him almost single-handedly beat Mission Viejo with his just gutty performance with, 4 yards in a cloud of turf kind of thing. So
It's eyes, it's heart, and it's brain.
yeah,
Those are always going to be my 3 top evaluators before I think about what are their numbers, who did they play, how long did they play, what did they do when they were in the game, and then I never try to pretend like we don't. What do recruiters think of them? How do we think they'll perform on Saturdays? Sometimes I do think about how they perform on Sundays. I don't think about it as this is my deciding factor, but I think about it. But the number 1, 2, and 3 things we're thinking about is what am I seeing? A stat can't tell me what somebody's twitch looks like. They can't tell me what somebody's changed direction. But we also don't have AWS, This isn't like Thursday Night Football where they're drawing it on the field and we can see them spin around. You have to watch the games. And sometimes I think people forget that we watch games and our perception of being able to see every game changes how we see the football scene versus some other people.
I'll say this before we move on in topics. The year that Chris Olave was up, or the year, I can't remember who won. Was it Tuttle that won?
Yes.
It was Tuttle that won. Mission Hills had 2 high-end players, and Jack Tuttle, who played quarterback, and a receiver by the name of Chris Olave, who was putting up monster numbers and was at least a 4-star at that point, maybe even higher, but we knew he was going places. We knew he was going to Ohio State. And we thought, okay, we had to choose between, our rule is only one kid can be selected by our committee to be on the podium. Then any other names have to go into the fan vote and the people have to choose it. And I thought, okay, we went back and forth. Should it be Tuttle? Should it be Olave that gets the committee vote? We decided on Tuttle as the quarterback, thinking, of course, Chris Olave will win the fan vote because he probably should have been selected by the committee, or both of them should have been on. Well, Brandon, pick the story up from there before you throw it back to me. What happened in the fan vote?
Well, we had a rousing fan vote and a lot of great nominees, one of which was Jeremiah, the quarterback out of Christian High, and the Jeremiah family, quite known across the globe. And someone's grandfather definitely said, "Hey, you mind lobbing a vote my grandkids' way?" And when you got people voting from Ireland and Singapore and Zimbabwe, it really affects the fan vote.
And Jeremiah, great kid.
Valid victory. We were very happy.
Yeah, we loved having him on the podium. And that's not where I'm going with this. Where I'm going with it is Chris Olave did not win an award from the Prep Pigskin Report. He went on to be a star at Ohio State and is playing in the NFL and when healthy. First round draft choice. And when healthy is considered one of the best receivers on the globe.
Wait, didn't we have the same thing with Devin Lloyd when he was at Otay Ranch?
Can I just finish my story?
Yeah.
So what I want to say to all the people out there who
I don't vote.
Who may have been slighted, if we can get Chris Olave wrong, we can be wrong. That's the pinnacle of being wrong about an athlete and messing up. But you know what? Chris Olave never raised a voice, never said boo to us. He's always done anything we've ever needed him to do. He stayed a friend of the show, and we've had him on the podcast. He's a great young man. We look forward to his return to health. But it just goes to show you, use that as a springboard and as the what's a chip on the shoulder kind of thing. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we're just the Prep Pigskin Report. There's a whole lot of life to live after it. So please don't be affected or tainted by the noise on social media about how we might have slighted this kid or that. None of it's intentional. Some of it we just flat out were wrong. I'll tell you, Arian Foster didn't win the Silver Pigskin Player of the Year.
Can I give you a story from Philadelphia from 1985?
Please.
Philadelphia Inquirer always does the top high school athlete. All right, here. So this is on the list. I was on the list. Meldrick Taylor, remember Olympic gold? Mm-hmm. Pooh Richardson, remember him? Basketball player, UCLA. Hank Gathers, Embo Kimball, and Blair Thomas.
All from the Philadelphia area?
Same year.
Wow.
None of us won. This kid that played lacrosse at a prep school won. It was probably the district attorney now. So don't take it too seriously. Don't take it too seriously if you're not on the list. It's not that big a deal.
Do you still have those headlines?
I can probably find him.
Please, I want a snapshot. We'll put it up on the podcast.
I want to Google where the guy you lost to is now.
I still remember he went to LaSalle. This prep school, it was $40,000 a year.
And Burt had over 100 D1 offers.
And I was All-American track too.
At what?
Sports. Shot put.
Did you think you were going to win?
I did think I was going to win, yeah.
Were you bummed?
At the time, I think I was.
So that's why you rain on us all so much, because
Pretty much so.
I thought
you're
he
the
was going to
voice
say
of the
that
slighted.
Hank Gathers won, by the way. That's what I thought you were going to say.
No, he didn't win. I would have been. Melder Taylor won the gold medal that year in the Olympics. Nothing. All of us.
Unbelievable. I want to make this point short. I know we got to move on to something else, which is just, I don't want to make this too complicated, but we all have to be better at the language we use too. I think some of the language we used this year wasn't fair to some kids and kind of led them down the wrong path, and wasn't fair to some coaches and parents and players. So I think we as a show could do better with some of the language that we use to describe some kids, and maybe got some hopes up that we shouldn't have. And so I'm sorry about that. I don't think
I want to push back against it, because you're referring to the Silver Pigskin watch lister kind of thing we do at the start
This
of the
guy's got to be on the podium.
Yeah.
Hey, are you watching? I
Yeah,
never want to get someone's hopes up for something that.
but that's life.
Yeah.
That's life.
I say that's my only, I think, regret from this year is we should be more judicious.
All right, because we're getting close to our half hour here, and we're going to wrap it up at 30 minutes. The category you're most, that isn't the Silver Pigskin Player of the Year, the category you're most interested in watching, Brandon, is, I'll ask you the same question.
Let Burt go first, because I'm looking at some of these right now.
Burt, what is the category that you are most, well, obviously probably Iron Hog is what you're.
No, usually every year it's Defense Player of the Year for me.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Play defense. I like there always just seems to be one standout great defensive player that you can pick is going to win. And this year, with a lot of the categories, there is no one, this guy's going to win. And every year, I can almost guarantee or predict who's going to win every category. This year, I have no clue in any of the categories.
I want to back that up, Burt, because I think you and I are
Like
gonna
juvenile? You going back?
Not quite in that way, because this is a PG program.
Okay.
But hey, anytime you want to take it back to the 99 and the 2000s, I'm right there with you. But anyway, I agree with you on Defensive Player of the Year, because I think what makes it intriguing for you is the same thing that makes it intriguing for me. It is a fascinating mix of people who get a lot of high recruiting praise and are going to big Power 5 schools, mixed with the hard-nosed high schooler who just wants to hit and run around and tackle people, and you never know which one of those wins out. I mean, look at the way Defense Player of the Year lines up. Cam Purnell, Power 5 guy. Easy Tokyo, Power 5 guy. Brandon Arrington, the ultimate Power 5 guy. But then within that too, Billy Trollinger, just one of the most heads-up, hard-working, edge-rushing dudes. Just want to
Nose for the ball guy.
Cranford out of Carlsbad on a stacked defense, just a lineman who gets right in front of the trenches and won't let you go. We got to watch him get 5 sacks. Gavin Valencia, you talk about a classic RB linebacker, puts on the blue and white and just seeks and destroys. That mix of those 6 guys makes for an incredibly intriguing podium, and I have no idea how to track that.
And you know what's scary about that podium or that group? Is we could come up with another 6 guys almost as good and have a second. We could have Defensive Player of the Year 1 and Defensive Player of the Year 2.
And to hear what someone's going to say already, I'll say it myself, so that way they don't have to put it in the comments later. It doesn't include the leader in tackles, and it doesn't include the leader in sacks.
So that's where I was going with that you could easily. All right, we got Burt.
Let's do the open real quick.
All right, let's talk about the big game on Tuesday. First of all, are you wigged out about it being played on a Tuesday?
No, I think people forgot what we used to do back in the day at the Q. We used to play these things on Monday with a half court, so whatever. The kids end up getting more rest anyway. The kids are going to get more rest out of it. So
Burt?
it's good.
Yeah, and it wasn't, some people act like it was planned that way. It's not. We have a professional soccer team that made it to the playoffs, going to play. Southwestern College, who won 3 games in the last 26 years, has the bowl game at Southwestern on that Saturday. So it's really, unless you go to Escondido or a bigger high school, there's really nowhere else you can go. So
I want to know what USD is up to. What's happening over there? Soccer teams and tournament and everything.
that's real grass.
Can we quickly talk about the game? I would assume that Cathedral Catholic goes into this game as a touchdown favorite, or is that fair? 10-point favorite? Is it a double-digit favorite?
I don't,
Or
Carlsbad only
is
really
it
had
a
one
pick 'em?
slip up. Carlsbad has had one slip up. That was the La Costa Canyon game. Other than that, they've been pretty flawless.
So, all right. Well, first of all, who's favored, Brandon, and how do you think it's going to play out?
I think that Cathedral only goes in as maybe a 3-point favorite, especially when you look at how their game went against Mission Hills, who, don't forget, walked in as the #1 seed and only lost in the last 30 seconds to a pretty nice run where Honor got past 3 players. I look at Carlsbad and I'm thinking that Thad McNeil, the #1 thing he's been thinking about is what that team went through in 2021. They brought an excellent team to Escondido. Julian Sayin was just a sophomore then. And then he ended up having a tough game against not just Lucky Sutton, but a great cast of characters on that team. Tana Latuli was on that team, and now the 2 of them are teammates at San Diego State. I feel like Thad is on a mission in this game. I look at the way the Open Division has built itself over the last few years. Nobody's been involved in it more than Thad, Sean, and David, and this is Thad's chance to really put that imprint after a couple of tough runs. And then even maybe the best team that he brought to the dance for it in the last few years, the team they had 2 years ago that ended up losing to Granite Hills in the semis. This is Thad's time with a group of guys, and don't forget the effect that the 2 drop-downs from the Trinity League have had in Travis Jeffrey and Darian Webb on how their offenses looked. Rocky Cummings is ready too. I think there's so many talented players on Carlsbad.
And you left out one, because the coach's son is, I mean, right up until that LCC game, he was putting up some incredible numbers.
Yeah.
And then he had the one bad performance, and then
redeemed it.
Redeemed himself. I think that has a possibility of a very special moment if Thad and Eli can, in their final prep, what would be their final San Diego prep game.
It would be beautiful to see a father and son duo win an Open Championship. But with all that being said, maybe the best full position lineup between both these teams is Cathedral's offensive line, which may be the best position group between both teams. And that could change the game.
Geez, we could do another award, the best offensive line unit.
The Joe Moore Award. It's called in college. They picked the best. You know what? You might do that next year.
Because in that way you get, oh boy.
There you go, Paul.
We might have to extend the gala to 2 hours. Brandon, you are
Best nachos.
for somebody who I annoy the hell out of.
Say this.
Brandon Stone is the most loyal friend a guy can have.
I'm sitting right here.
Oh, Burt, you're hardly loyal.
I don't vote, by the way. I have no vote.
Folks,
Gala.
it's been my. I'll say to Brandon. Brandon's heard me use this line maybe 2,000 times.
Is it Josie?
In the immortal words of the outlaw Josie Wales, I rode with him and I ain't got no complaints. Podcast is over. Everybody, turn off your
right here.
machines. We'll be back next week.
I'm not.